Hey everyone, my name is Olaf and today I will teach you how to make this exact simulation in Blender 2.8 in cycles. As always, it's going to be quick and easy, so let's get started. Okay, so start off by pressing X to delete the default cube. Then let's add a UV sphere. Then press S to scale. And then let's go into the modifiers to add additional polygons. So let's add a subdivision surface modifier. Increase the number of subdivisions. And then let's add smooth shading as well. Okay, so let's add the particles, which we need for the simulation. So let's add a new particle system. Let's set the number of particles to 10,000. And then let's make it last for the whole animation, so 250 frames. And set the lifetime to 250 frames as well. The velocity is sort of the inflow particle settings, and we want the particles to move on the X and Z axis. So let's increase the value on the X axis. Let's set it to 10. And then let's set the value on the Z axis to be around 30. Okay, so now we have the basic inflow. So let's add a cube. So go to render and then objects. And then we need to add the cube. So go to add, mesh, and then add a cube. Then press G, then X to grab it on the X axis. Select the particle system, and then select the cube in the particle system. Let's set the size of the cubes to 0.3 for now. And press S to scale, and we can play the animation. You can also hide the overlay. Let's also increase the number of cubes. So go to the top of the particle system and let's set the number to 20k. Okay, and then let's play the animation from the beginning. And I think that looks okay. So let's hide the original cube. So select the cube and then hide it in the viewport and make sure to hide it in the render as well. Okay. And then let's unhide the overlay, select the sphere, and then Shift D to duplicate, and then Y to grab the duplication on the Y-axis. And then duplicate once again, and let's put it on the other side of the sphere. So Shift D and then Y to grab it on the Y-axis. Then hold in Shift and select the sphere on the other side. And then select the sphere in the middle. Then press Ctrl P to set the parent to the sphere in the middle. Then let's play the animation. And now we're going to make the two spheres rotate around the sphere in the middle. And for that we're going to use a curve. So go to Add, then Curve, and then Circle. And then press S to scale. And then press G, then X to grab it on the X-axis. And then select the sphere. Hold in Shift and select the curve. And then press Ctrl P and make the sphere follow the path. As you can see, we get the rotation using the curve. Now we want the movement to be linear and infinite. So let's set some new keyframes and set the keyframe interpolation as well. So start off by selecting the curve. Then go into the curve settings. And then go to path animation. And then right click and clear the keyframes. And then let's go to frame 100. And set the value to 100. And then I to keyframe. And then go to frame 1 and set the evaluation time value to 1 and I to keyframe. And then let's open a new window and go into the graph editor. And we want the rotation speed to be constant, so press T and then set the interpolation to linear. then press N, and we're going to add a cycle modifier so that the rotation lasts forever. So we'll set it to cycles. And as you can see, when we play the animation, the rotation speed is constant and the curve rotation is infinite. So let's pause the animation and let's increase the velocity value on the z-axis and set it to 40 so that it goes higher. Let's play it from the beginning. And I think that looks okay. So let's pause the animation and save before we continue. Let's go to File, and then Save As, and then save the file wherever you want on the computer, and then enter to save. Okay, so now it's time to set up the lighting and the materials and the render as well. So let's start off by going into the render settings. Let's use cycles. And I'm going to set the number of samples to 250. And I'm going to use the GPU later. Then select the light, press G to grab, go into the light settings, change it into a sun. Let's set the strength to 5. And for these types of simulations, I also like to increase the angle of the light. So let's set it to 90 degrees. And you can also rotate the light. So R to rotate. And then press numpad 7 for a top view. And then press Shift D to duplicate. R to rotate. And let's set the strength to 4. And then press numpad 7 once again for top view. And then Shift D to duplicate. And then R, then set to rotate the sun on the z-axis. And then let's set the strength to 2. Okay, so now we have the 3-point lighting. And when we go into rendered view, we can see what it looks like. And now it's time to add materials to the cubes and the spheres. So let's select the cube. Go into the materials, click new. And then let's set it to glossy. And then we need to go into the shader editor. So go into the shader editor. And let's increase the size of the window. And we're going to add random saturation to the blue color, or whatever color you add. So start off by searching for hue. And then add the object info node. And then just connect random to saturation. So we get a random value for the saturation. Then connect color to color. And then go into rendered view. And then select the color that you want for the animation. I'm going to select blue. And as you can see, we get many different values of blue using the random saturation. And you can also decrease the roughness for the glossy shader. So something like this. And you can also change the factor for the hue saturation node. We can also change the background color, so go to the world settings, and let's make it almost completely black. Okay, and then select, let's select one of the spheres. Go into the materials, let's add a new material. And I'm going to use the diffuse shader and give it a blue color. And then let's add the same material for the 2 other spheres as well. So let's select it. And then add the same material. And then select the last sphere. And again, select the same material. Okay, so let's go back to solid view and play the animation from the beginning. And then we can pause the animation and go back to render view to see what it looks like. And then I'm just going to make some slight changes to the color of the spheres before we save the file. Okay, so just play around with the colors. And then we can save, so go to File. and then save as, and then click on the plus sign, and then press enter to save. Okay, so the next step of the tutorial is to set up the camera for the final animation. So let's unhide the overlay, and then press numpad 0 to look through the camera. Then select the camera and increase the range of the camera by increasing the end value, and then press N and lock the camera to view. And let's go a bit backwards and find a good position for your camera. And then let's move on the timeline by playing the animation. And I try to make sure that everything is within the frame of the camera in the beginning. We're going to render the final animation very soon, so this is the time to make the final adjustments to the colors and the different values and factors. So just play around with the colors and values. And I'm also going to increase the size of the cubes. So go to the particle settings and select one of the spheres. They all have the same particle system, so you only have to select one of them. And then let's increase the size. So let's set the scale to 0.4. And then let's go back to solid view. And then let's go into the render settings and use the GPU if you have one. If not, just keep using the CPU. And if you have a GPU, set the tile size to 512. If you only have a CPU, just leave them at 64. And then let's set the frame rate to 30 FPS. Find an output folder for your final animation or create one on your computer. And then let's play the animation from the beginning and make sure everything looks okay. And it looks fine. I might adjust the position of the camera a bit. And let's play the animation. Okay, so let's render. So go to render and then render animation. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll post more Blender 2.8 tutorials very soon. So thank you guys for watching and subscribe.